Hey everybody, welcome back again. Today we're going to talk about 4 questions that you can use to help resolve conflicts in your relationship. I think these 4 questions are fantastic for anybody who finds themselves in a conflict in their relationship and they're looking to be able to resolve those conflicts quicker and easier and without as much injury. So stay tuned. I look forward to going over those 4 questions with you. Okay, 4 questions for improved conflict resolution in your relationship. I've come up with these questions out of working with hundreds of couples in my therapeutic practice and in my coaching work with couples around the world. And these questions are extremely useful in helping individuals take a step back during a conflict and take a look at steps toward resolving that conflict versus just perpetuating that conflict. And the reason this is important is because most couples, when they run into a conflict with one another, they have no idea how to work through that conflict toward resolution, right? To work out a resolution to that conflict. And because they're not sure how to work out a resolution to that conflict, typically the way they approach conflicts just perpetuates more fighting, more arguing, more hurt feelings, more injuries in the relationship, right? And so our goal is to do conflicts in a way that resolve conflicts, conflict resolution, versus doing conflicts in a way that perpetuate injury, hurt, disconnect in the relationship, right? And these 4 questions are extremely useful in helping you take a step back and look at, am I part of a resolution or am I contributing to the problem, right? So I'm excited to go over these with you. These principles build off of the idea of gridlock that I've presented in a previous YouTube video. I'll let you take a look at that YouTube video right here. And you can check out that YouTube video talking about how couples can end up in a gridlock situation with each other. I talk quite a bit about these dynamics in our feedback loops video as well. You can take a look at that one here too. And you might take a look at our Resolving Conflicts video series. There's actually a 3-part series on that. I'll stick those here as well, and you can take a look at those videos too. All of those are on YouTube, and I hope that you find a lot of use out of our YouTube channel for enriching your relationship. So these 4 questions, let's jump into them. Here's the first question. When you find yourself in a conflict, here's the first question to ask yourself. Do I see the issue as 100% their fault? Now the reason that this question is so important is because oftentimes when we get into a conflict with another person, we see the issue as all them. In other words, I didn't really experience a problem or an issue until you did or said the thing that you did or said, right? And as a result of that, you created the conflict, right? And I'm the victim to the conflict. So you created it, I'm the victim. The only way this gets better is if you see the fault that you created and you take accountability for it, right? That's how we typically see most conflicts. It's our partner that created the conflict for us. Well, here's a little bit of news. Here's just a little secret. When I interview your partner thinks the same thing about you. Ironic, isn't it? Right? Like, it's kind of funny how that works, right? That when I interview both parties, they both see the issue in their conflict as their spouse. And as a result of that, the conflict only gets better for them if their spouse owns it and does something different with it, right? And so they spend all of their energy in the conflict focused on trying to get their spouse to see how they are the issue so that they'll fix the issue that they are and resolve their conflict, right? And that's not how conflict resolution goes. Because a relationship is made up of 2 parties, most conflicts that we encounter are going to be a 2-person issue, which means we're both going to play a role in that conflict, and we want both individuals to be aware of the role that they're playing and how they can resolve it. So this is a really important first question to ask yourself. Do I see this conflict as 100% my partner? And if I do, I'm probably not going to be super successful in helping resolve that conflict, right? So my challenge instead is if you're seeing it as 100% your partner's fault, the conflict is all them, my challenge to you is to try to look at it a little bit deeper and see if you can find some even small contribution that you might be making to the conflict, right? And try to resolve that conflict. A classic example of this that I use is a couple early on in my career who was coming in, and the gentleman was coming in frustrated that his wife would always nag him. She nags me about the house, she nags me about work, she nags me about the kids, right? And he was focusing the first several sessions on what a nag she is. And of course, this isn't going over real well for her. She's working really hard to hold her patience, to hold her tongue sitting next to him. But finally, she explodes out of that place, right? And she's like, why do you think I nag? Why do you think I'm always nagging you, right? And then she goes into, you don't help with the kids, right? Like you're late to work half the time and you've lost 3 jobs in the last 10 years, right? And she goes off on all these criticisms for him too, right? And it became very clear as I was getting to know this couple that their conflict exists in a loop, right? And all that means is she's nagging in the relationship because of some of the dynamics that he's not taking responsibility for, right? He's not getting up and getting to work like he should. He's not contributing in the home like he should. And as a result of that, she feels the need to point that out to him and pull him into it, right? So he saw the resolution of their conflict simply being, she should stop nagging me because nagging is not cool, right? And I agree, nagging is not awesome. And she agreed too. She hated nagging, right? The only reason she nagged in the relationship is because it's not cool when your husband's lazy and irresponsible and not showing up to his duties and responsibilities, right? So there was a 2-part solution, right? He needed to step up, right, in order for her to step back a little bit, right? And they both wanted the other to create the change. They were just in gridlock, both waiting on the other to be the change, when really they both needed to work toward that resolution. Her criticizing a little less, him stepping up a little more. So that's how most conflicts go in relationships, right? There's 2 parts, and we want to understand what our part is. And we better understand what our part is because we're asking our partner, right, to take a look at their part. And I need to be willing to look at my part too. If we have 2 people willing to look at their part, now we can get somewhere, right? Which leads us to question number 2. And here's question number 2. If I see my part, have I owned it and asked forgiveness of it, right? So once I start looking into, okay, there might be a 2-part issue here in this conflict, have I owned the part that I'm seeing as I look at my side of it, right? Have I verbalized that out loud, expressed it to my partner, and even asked one more step past owning it? Have I asked forgiveness for it, right? So acknowledging it and then saying I'm sorry for it, right? Oftentimes couples, even when they start to realize that they might be part of the problem, they're nervous to own it out loud, right? So they'll kind of make a mental note internally. I probably could have done that a little bit better, right? But externally, that's a really vulnerable thing to do, to express it to my partner and say, hey, I'm seeing how I might have been part of this issue, right? And a big part of the reason sometimes that people are nervous to do that is because they're afraid that their partner will then say, yep, that's right, you are a jerk. I'm glad you can see it now, you should fix it, right? And that their partner will see the conflict as completely one-sided, right? That it's all on them, that their partner had nothing to do with the conflict. And so because we're nervous that our partner will kind of bypass their contribution to the issue and just focus on me being the issue, we oftentimes won't own our part. We won't acknowledge it to our partner, right? Maybe internally, but not out loud. And the quickest way to getting to a resolution is letting your partner know that you do see it, right? That you do see your part to the concern. It brings down their defenses often, right? It helps diffuse some of the hard feelings that they feel, and it makes it more likely that they'll look at their part too, right? So that's question number 2, right? If I've seen my part, have I now owned it out loud, acknowledged it, and have I asked forgiveness for it, right? Said, I can see how I'm doing this thing, and I'm sorry that I'm doing it. That's question number 2. Now, question number 3, right? Let's jump into question number 3, and here it is. Have I listened to their part to understand their desires, preferences, requests, or needs better, right? So often when we're in conflict, I'm so focused on getting my partner to hear me, to understand me, to be aware of me and to change for me, that oftentimes I'm not listening for understanding when they're sharing, right? I'm listening more to rebut or to rebuttal them, right? To fight back, to criticize back, right? Like to defend myself. Typically, I'm listening more in that way. So I'm not really listening to understand them. I'm listening to understand how well they understand me, right? And when we listen in a relationship, we want to try to listen with the same type of listening we're hoping our partner will do with us, which means I better listen to understand them because I sure do want them to understand me. So this is kind of an ironic thing that we do sometimes, right? That I listen more to see if they're understanding me, and then I share from that place versus really listening to try to understand them, which is exactly what I hope they'll do for me. And so that's my third question, right? If I'm acknowledging and understanding my part to this issue, when they speak and when they share, am I really trying to understand their experience? Now, when two people do this for each other, when they both try to listen for those needs and preferences and interests and desires, both parties are able to, with greater understanding, work toward a win-win resolution, right? A resolution that works for both parties. You can learn more about this principle in our Resolving Differences video. So take a look at that one. But that's our goal, right? That both parties in a conflict walk away with it, with a deeper understanding and a greater knowledge of what they can do, both, to contribute to a resolution in the future. And if they do that, they'll find that they're having conflicts less and less frequently. And when they have those conflicts, they're less and less severe. And they're recovering out of those conflicts even quicker over time. So that's question number 3. Question number 4. Am I pursuing growth and adaptation in a way that they are asking me to do, right? And the reason that this question is so important is because oftentimes I'm so focused on the growth and adaptation I want my partner to do that I'm not really focused on integrating the growth they're asking of me, right? It just makes sense that in the relationship, I'm going to be most concerned for the things that I want from my partner. And oftentimes I can neglect a little bit the things that my partner wants from me, especially if I don't see their wants and needs as important or as high priority as my own. And I don't mean that in selfish ways, like you're a narcissist or something, if that's the case. Most of us are more preoccupied with our comforts and our discomforts than the comforts or discomforts of others. And it takes practice sometimes to value another person's needs or desires or preferences as much as my own, which means when we're in conflict and my spouse is sharing with me something that they would prefer that I do differently, I want to try to listen to that with the same priority and adapt that into my way of being with the same priority that I hope they'll listen to and adapt to my requests, right? In that way, we have a mutual understanding and a mutual approach toward growth. I'm trying to grow in the ways that work the best for my spouse, and she's trying to grow in the ways that work the best for me. And over time, we're both trying to take each other's needs and preferences and do a little bit better, which just means that our relationship is going to be a little better over time. So those are the 4 questions. Let me review them with you one more time. Here's question number 1. Do I see the issue as a 100% their fault? And then question number 2, if I see my part, have I owned it and asked forgiveness of it? Question number 3, have I listened to their part to understand their desires, preferences, requests, or needs better? And question number 4, am I pursuing growth and adaptation in a way that they are asking me to do, right? So ask yourself those 4 questions. Next time you're in a conflict, ask yourself those 4 questions and practice integrating growth from those places, right? That we practice not just seeing conflicts as all of our partner's issue, that we get practiced at looking at our contribution to them as well. Now, I want to make one caveat about this, and that's in cases of betrayal or in cases of abuse, right? I don't want to suggest in this video that in cases that spouses or partners are experiencing one person abusing the other, or one person betraying the other's trust, right, or betraying the other's fidelity. In situations like that, it can be very healthy to see those issues as pretty one-sided, right? It can be unhealthy to look too deeply into what am I doing that's causing my partner to abuse me or to betray me, right? There really isn't ever a good excuse for betrayal of trust and fidelity, and for abuse in a committed relationship, right? So in those situations, which are usually pretty extreme, thankfully most individuals aren't facing those, but some are, right? In those situations, those are okay to see as pretty one-sided issues in the relationship, right? And it can be healthy not to look too deeply into how is this my fault that my partner's mistreating me in this way. But outside of those cases, these are really helpful questions to help resolve conflicts in your relationship. And we want to practice approaching conflicts in that way because it's the same way we're hoping that our partner will approach a conflict as well. So use these 4 questions, get used to them, memorize them, right? And when you're in conflicts, ask yourself these questions and try to be a little better and do a little better for your partner. And hopefully over time, your partner will do the same and we can just see your relationship take off in really positive ways. In the comments below, share your thoughts about these 4 questions. Is there a 5th question that you would suggest that we ask ourselves during a conflict? Right? Or share an experience that you've had using one of these questions. We always love to hear your comments, your requests, your intrigues, right? So please share those in the comments below. And as always, we hope you like this channel. We hope you're subscribed to this channel. If you're not, go ahead and click that button right now. And please share this channel. The whole reason that we're doing these videos is because we want to help elevate the relationship of couples everywhere. We want couples to renew the love, the joy, the fulfillment, the connection in their relationship. And we're grateful for you sharing our content to make that goal possible. As always, we hope you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to being with you again soon. Take care.